I'm a 19-year-old female and my name is Catherine. My parents are Dad 45 and Mom 44, and we'll call my dad John and my mom Jessica. So a few months back, I was still living with my parents. My parents have always been kinda weird on not respecting my privacy, but I never really said anything until I turned 18. Because at that point, I felt like they needed to start respecting me on it. So here's some things they do that really made me uncomfortable. They both just walk into the bathroom when I'm using it or taking a shower. They both think it's stupid when I tell them to get out. They never knock and just come into my room even when I'm telling them I'm changing, and just stand there and talk to me while they see I'm uncomfortable with it and I'm always telling them to go out. So finally having enough, I bought a door with a lock on it for my room. They were always very defensive about it and not understanding why I needed the lock. Here's why my final straw came into play. Every time I unlocked my door, John would come over and aggressively jigger the doorknob and bang on my door until I got up and opened it. He then just stood there and tried to talk to me in a weird way and got upset if I tried to stop talking to him. Then my job changed to night shift, so on my days off I'd be up all night long until 6 in the morning. Every hour, John would come to my door and check the doorknob to see if it was unlocked. This creeped me out a lot, and I told my mother about it, but she blew me off saying he was just checking on me to make sure I'm fine. Yeah, no. Looking back on it now, my parents were creepy and very weird about wanting to be in situations with me where I was naked or slightly exposed. So, after several times of telling my mom and her doing nothing blowing it off, I told my grandmother about it. She didn't believe my parents were being so weird. So I bought a small camera and placed it between two of my books in my bookshelf. I then left my door unlocked and went to bed. I caught my dad sneaking into my room and standing in front of my bed, staring at me for a solid 4 hours. 4 hours! He watched me sleep for 4 hours. When I showed my grandparents, they freaked out how creepy my dad was and confronted them about it and told me I could stay with them. I quickly moved out and I refused to see my parents at all now. I'm genuinely weirded out by both of them now, realizing how weird they actually were. I wish I'd known sooner how wrong it was of them to act like that, but I didn't understand that it wasn't normal parenting. So if there's a lesson here, keep an eye on people, and that includes your family. Unfortunately, some of them might not have good intentions. Here's a little context. For the past 2 months or so, I've been experiencing people attempting to get into my home. Now, I wouldn't say that they've tried forcefully, but if it's not the doorknob being messed with, I'm hearing the back porch door being slammed. I haven't notified the police yet, mainly because it wouldn't happen so regularly, and just thought that maybe it would all really be a waste of time, seeing how there's never much to go off than just me hearing the attempts. But last night's encounter might just be the nail in the coffin, as I'm genuinely creeped out by this time. So here it goes. It may have been around 11:30 p.m. I was laying in bed just enjoying another night after work, watching TV, and that's when I hear a slight tap coming from my brother's window. Now, generally, this made me a bit tense since most of the time they do this sort of thing earlier in the night, but this time it was later than usual, and never had it ever been tapping on the windows. I stay quiet, and maybe not even 5 minutes later, I hear it again, but this time it's coming from my room. Some time passes by, and that's when I hear a sudden knock coming from the front door. I continued to stay silent, hoping that they would just leave, but that's when I hear them messing with the doorknob. Few attempts are made, and then everything goes silent once again, until they start harmonizing with each other. This is when I decided to pull out my phone to record it. After that, I guess they decided to leave for good, as I didn't have the gut to interact with them. All I know is that things are getting freakier than I could ever imagine, and I don't even know where to begin as to how I'm supposed to get rid of them. I'm a female, and in high school I was a cheerleader, but I went to a school that actually took cheerleading very seriously. We did hours of conditioning, independent tumbling classes, practice for hours after school, all that good stuff. I have a weird heart, so physicals were more in depth for me. My aunt worked at the clinic in our town, so she's the one who took me to my appointment. She's a goofy, loud/outspoken nurse, so all of the doctors were very comfortable around her. After my physical was finished, the doctor stayed in our room and was just chatting with both of us. I had seen this doctor before, but he was being extra nice this time. I assumed because he was more comfortable because my aunt was in the room and he knew her well. He suddenly asked me if my parents allowed me to date yet. I was 15, and they did, so I laughed and said yes, they did. He then asked me if I wanted to go on a date with him. I thought he was joking because obviously I was a child and this was a doctor who looked to be in his 30s. He was not joking though. He legitimately wanted to take me on a date, and my aunt thought I would be excited because he was a doctor. I just felt so grossed out. He had to have known my age. I was there for a high school sports physical. I was brace-faced and barely getting boobs. This guy had just had his hands all over me for this physical exam and wasn't just being nice, but was flirting. I'm married with a toddler and a newborn now, and just find it even more revolting now that I have kids. When I was probably 13, my family and I were on our way home from a Wednesday night church service. My mom was in the driver's seat and I was behind her in the back. My 5-year-old brother was in the middle and my 10-year-old sister on his other side. We were just down the road from the church, but it was a country road and late, so there was no light and no one else on the road. We were just coming up to our turn when all of a sudden a car comes swerving from our turning spot. This little car was taking the turn so fast that they came into our lane and almost hit us. We swerved as they tried to get in their own lane before we collided. Unfortunately for them, they overcorrected and their car flipped and landed on the driver's side door in the ditch. My mom, of course, hits the brakes and immediately jumps out of the car to go help whoever was in that car. She got about 3 steps away from the car and stopped dead in her tracks. My sister and I were sitting there with our mouths hanging wide open, having no clue what to do. All I could think is, this isn't actually happening to us. This kind of stuff only happens in the movies. But why isn't my mom going to help the person? It was summer, so we had all our windows halfway down. I heard a person start yelling help from the car, and my mom starts moving again to help him. But for some reason, she stops again in the center of the road. Another car flies behind us, and the guy doesn't hesitate to jump out and run up to the car to help. The man gets to the car and starts prying the passenger door open so the guy in the car can get out. I can see my mom wanting to run and help, but it's like she can't move from that spot. The good Samaritan that pulled up behind us is able to get the door popped open. The guy from inside crawls out of the door and gets into a frog-like crouching position on top of the car. At this point, my mom starts taking shuffle steps back to the car. When I look back at the guy, he has this crazy look on his face. He looks directly at our car and my mom and launches himself off the top of the car and hits the guy who was helping him. He starts running for our car. At the same time, my mom turns and runs for our car. He must have known he couldn't get to the car before my mom did because he changed directions and moved to the car behind us. My mom jumps in and locks our car doors just as the guy jumps in the empty driver's seat of the car behind us. He slams on the gas before he has even closed the door and almost hits our car, taking off a second time. Next thing we know, the guy who was just carjacked runs up to my mom's window and starts screaming and knocking on the window. My mom is of course shaken and doesn't want to roll down the window, so she settles for cracking it so we can understand what he's saying. He's yelling, asking us to call 911 because his phone was in the car along with his girlfriend. So, of course, my mom starts searching for her phone to call, but because she's so frantic from what just happened, she can't seem to find it. So I take a break from keeping my little brother and sister calm and dial 911 on my phone and hand it to her. While she is explaining what happened to the 911 operator, we hear a woman scream down the road. The man that was at our window takes off running, and a few minutes later comes back with a severely scraped up woman in his arms that turned out to be his girlfriend. My mom unlocks the doors at this point and he sets her in the passenger seat while we wait for the cops. The girlfriend told us that he noticed her while he was speeding off and tried to hit her, but she scratched and punched him while he was trying to plead with him to stop the car. He kept coming at her though and finally rolled down the window and pushed her out, going about 60 miles per hour. The cops finally show up and talk to all of us to get our stories. While talking to one officer, he told my mom that the man had shot and killed a man behind some apartment complex. That's why he was driving so fast and trying to get away. When we finally got home, we were all told to go to bed. But, of course, I wasn't able to sleep that night. So I went downstairs to talk to my mom. I worked up the courage to ask her why she stopped running to the car when the other guy didn't. She told me she had such a strong feeling that she should stay in the car with us, that it was almost like she could hear it. When she heard him start yelling for help, she ran to help again, but just like last time, she got the overwhelming feeling not to go to the car. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if my mom hadn't listened to that feeling. The guy could have easily overpowered her and gotten to the car if she had been any further away.
Hi there, thank you for watching. If you wish to see more videos like this, be sure to click on the playlist link down in the description. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. If you'd like to get in contact with me and send me your own stories, there's a link to my Discord and email in the description. See you next time.